Today on Zestology, we look at how to live a more authentic life and ditch negative judgment with a blend of therapeutic techniques that you'll be using as you listen, if that makes sense. Welcome back to the podcast, all about energy, vitality and motivation. I'm Tony Wrighton, in my house in Portugal, and haven't been feeling that zesty over the last week. As you may have noticed if you've followed my social media, I'm always very hard on myself when I get a bit under the weather. My self-talk goes like this. Well, I've got a podcast on energy and I'm a biohacker and I'm taking all these supplements and I eat well, so why the hell am I feeling crap? And one of the secrets that I have to remind myself is to go easy on myself and start to use a lot of the techniques that I use in the Healthy AF method and with NLP and the sort of stuff that I talked to Rachel about today, because ultimately, if you're getting stressed and if you are in fight or flight mode, your body can't heal. And these bugs do come along. You may be able to hear from the sound of my voice. It's not in tip-top form, but I'm doing all right. Been taking a lot of vitamin C as well, and vitamin D. So I need Rachel's advice today on embracing authenticity and ditching negative self-talk. Rachel is a dedicated counsellor and life coach. She's got 10,000 hours of psychotherapy practice behind her, and she is the real deal. Here she is, Rachel Sievers on Zestology.
Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, it's lovely to talk to you. I have been really looking forward to talking about, because we had a bit of a back and forth before this podcast, and we were going to talk about authenticity and non-judgment. But as a precursor to that, could you just explain to me and everyone listening your background, how you got into all this, and anything else which is relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a recovering codependent. I was raised in a pretty unhealthy environment, like, most of us. I got into psychology about 15 years ago. I joined my master's program, and as soon as I started learning about it, just light bulbs were going off and realizations were happening, and my growth started happening immediately. And quickly opened up my private practice as soon as I could. And what I found time and time again, not only in my personal growth, but with my clients, is if we really whittled their issue down to the core, it came down to a lack of authenticity, trying to think the way they are supposed to think or live the way they're supposed to live, or, denying emotions because they shouldn't be feeling them. And when we can shed all of that off, mental health organically appears. I retired my license about 2 years ago so I could start expanding my practice into life coaching and podcasting. And I want to get really the benefits of counseling to as many people as possible. And so that's where I'm at right now. So I've been counseling people for about 12 years, either as a psychotherapist or a counselor or life coach.
Excellent. Yeah. That's really, I'm sort of so fascinated because when people have a psychology background, you've sort of done the reverse path that what a lot of people want to do in my world, which is I've trained in NLP for sort of 20 years or so. And we look at psychologists with great envy because of your extensive training and your ability to charge about 5 times as much and everything else.
Well, let's be clear. I was a psychotherapist, not a psychologist.
Okay, right. Well, that's still pretty good. I'll take that. Yeah. What an interesting sort of path. So when you step back from your practice, how was that freeing?
There is a almost like an insidious fear with most licensed professionals, I think. There's always this fear that at any point I could get sued, or at any point I could this could go wrong and I could lose everything if my client is crying and I'm really feeling like the right intervention is to reach out and, maybe touch their shoulder or hold their hand. There's a fear in the back of my head, like, oh gosh, don't touch them because this could be dangerous. You're breaking the law. When I released my license, I released that fear. I was able to explore my somatic work with people more, which is working directly with the nervous system, which involves touch sometimes, which involves grounding, leaving the office, going outside. I was able to meet people in the gym, meet people in their living room, meet people at their kitchen tables, and I'm able to freely, without fear, really connect with a client and do whatever the fuck is going to work for them without the confines of a box. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And I've seen more growth in my practice with my clients in my practice since retiring my license.
I've often thought that the best coaches that I've met in every different area would be good, whatever they pick, whatever modality they pick. They're good connectors, and they are good at establishing a connection. And therefore, if you're sort of pigeonholed into one modality and you can't do all those other things that perhaps you learn a little bit later in life, but you think, oh, that's pretty good as well. That's frustrating, I guess.
For me, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine for others as well.
Yeah. And the touch stuff, energy psychology, does it involve tapping or havening, or what sort of thing do you do with your clients?
I study somatic experiencing, which is being tuned into how the nervous system is dysregulating when confronted with thoughts, memories, or situations. It is trauma healing, but it is also just learning to regulate or just getting to know self. The lump you get in your throat when you talk about your grandma's death. Okay, your lump is talking to you. It's telling you something. Let's work with it. Let's listen to it. Let's allow it to move and change shape, and let's follow the urges that it's giving you. And then healing happens and regulation happens. It's very, very effective work. And sometimes it involves my touch as a clinician, but not always. Did that answer your question? I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you think that is more of an issue now than I guess sort of if it's a lump in the throat, it's something that people are aware of. But when you talk about nervous system, I feel like all of our nervous systems are just constantly getting pushed upwards. And a lot of us, in fact, all of us, often just aren't even aware that we're just sort of walking around in this really tense state.
Well, I'm a believer that our system from the top down is creating a state of tension for us to live in. So we are systematically fear-mongered, really. So I agree with you. Most of us are at a heightened level of dysregulation. And you're right, we're not aware of it. People think that that's just life.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have come into my practice and they don't even realize they've been suffering with anxiety for years.
Yeah.
And when they first experience peace or calm, they don't even know words to put to that. They think they're sleepy or they're tired or they think they're unmotivated, but they're just actually at rest for the first time ever.
Yeah. I wear these Oura rings on my thumb. I'm actually wearing two at the moment, which is really sad, I know. But they measure your heart rate variability, all sorts of other things as well. But just the way that your heart rate is affected by a 2-week holiday, it is shocking to me that I can't get that sort of level of heart rate all the time. It only happens on holiday and just after holiday, and then it goes right back up again. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So then the question is, how do we take that into our everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How, and what is happening in our everyday life that's causing that stimulation, agitation, whatever that is.
Yeah. That is a question I've asked myself a lot.
Yeah.
And we actually moved to Portugal recently, which has been lovely because it's a real different lifestyle. The sun's out all the time here. You get to spend a lot more time outside and you don't want to work as much. So I think that's really lovely and a big part of it for me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's interesting you said that because the next thought that came to my mind was, is it an internal shift that needs to happen to keep us more regulated, or is it an external shift that needs to happen? And sometimes I think it's 50-50. Like, are you thinking about your job the wrong way, or are you just in the wrong job? And I think sometimes we have a hard time distinguishing that. So it's beautiful that you shifted the external situation. And are you seeing positive results because of that? Yeah.
Definitely.
That's great.
Feeling good. And I think for a lot of us, it's just how connected we are. So, and that doesn't matter whether you're living in Portugal or anywhere else. You're just so connected to the news, your work, other people. And there's something about your nervous system that is not relaxing at all if you're replying to WhatsApps 5 minutes before you turn the light out at night, is there?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got a favorite radio station that I love listening to. It's called Six Music's British station. It's a BBC, so there's no adverts. And then every hour they play the news, and I can just feel my nervous system exploding. And then it sort of calms down about 10 minutes later. So
I won't watch it. I won't watch news.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
No. Nope. My peace is more important than anything to me. So anything that dysregulates me, I try not to engage in it. I learn the news from my clients, really. They tell me what's going on in the world.
Well, that's it. You're still perfectly able to be well informed about the world, but on your own terms rather than anyone else's terms. And, once a day is ample, or once a week. Yeah. So what about authenticity? It's really interesting because actually that ties in with your own career move, doesn't it? You're getting to live your own authentic life and do your own authentic work more because you're not constrained by your by the sort of bounds of your profession.
Right. Yeah. And I do my best to check in with myself frequently, at the things that I'm doing, how I'm spending my time, the people I'm spending my time with, the thoughts that I'm having, are they in alignment with my peace? And if they aren't, I have to make a shift. I have to. So many of us, from when we are this big, we are taught to look outside of ourselves for the answers. This is how you should talk. This is how you should sound. This is how you should feel. This is what your life should look like. This is the kind of partner you should be with. This is the kind of job that you should have. This is the church you should go to. These are your beliefs. Where we don't teach our children to look within themselves for their perfect truth, which is going to be different from one human to the next. For you, Portugal is perfect. Portugal's not perfect for me. So you should move to Portugal, not me. And that's beautiful. You're looking within yourself and figuring out what's good for you.
Yeah.
And I think why I connected to somatic experiencing so much is because it's just that next layer of the answers are right here. My body's talking to me all the time. It's telling me if this person is safe or not. It's telling me if this job is fulfilling or not. It's telling me if I like this home. It's telling me what I want to do next. And we just are not taught to tap into that. We're taught, in fact, to ignore our body, suck it up, push through, go to work. Who cares? We're taught to don't pay attention, minimize what your body's telling you. This is the only thing that's important in our culture, our brain, right? Rationalize yourself through everything. That's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. We can feel what is right for us. And I believe that when we are tuned into, without judgment, what we are feeling physically and emotionally, we are guided right all the time. But when we're tuned into what other people want from us or what we think, is going to look good to society, we will always end up in a place that's not healthy. That's not good. We'll be anxious, we'll be depressed, we'll have disorders, we become ill.
Mm. And how does that work with clients? When you're looking at shedding off other people's ideas, that somatic work, how exactly does it work?
Oh gosh, it's going to be so different from person to person. I do actually wrote a workbook. It's going to be coming out soon, and each month we talk about a different topic, and I give. I don't know exactly how to say this. I have the common questions that I use in my practice, and each month I ask those common questions. So, who was the first person that ever told you this? That your body should be slim? Or, what would life be like if you didn't give a fuck about this?
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Yeah.
What if everybody knew that you had this insecurity? So I think there are some questions that can be quite poignant and get people thinking in a different way. And when we start doing that work, naturally, my clients' bodies will start acting up. They'll like shift or get tight on one side, or they'll grab a pillow and hold it in their lap, or
Right. Yeah.
maybe they kind of go really still.
Mm.
And they kind of check out of the room because it's too much. There's all sorts of stuff that happens. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And then that gives us the opportunity to start exploring physically what's happening. And that brings all sorts of answers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is, so you're really getting the non-verbal signs, which is very NLP like. And we often find this, the skin tone can be a real indicator, actually. Is it flushing, or you go paler as you're talking, that, or the difference in heart rate and breathing as well. And then from there, you start to explore that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
So here's an example, because this is such a foreign concept to most people, right?
Mm.
I had a client who was having some definite physical changes as she was talking about the anxiety she was experiencing that day. And when we stopped and explored the physical experience, she said it's like it's heavy on my shoulders, like almost like so heavy I can't breathe. But also there's all this like agitation inside, like underneath the heaviness. She's able to describe what it feels like. And she said, it seems to me that there are heavy chains wrapped around my neck and my shoulders, and all I want to do is bust out of them. And so right there, we get so much beautiful information about, okay, your body's telling you something really clear, right? What are the chains? What's weighing you down? What's keeping you from busting out of them? And she's able to say, oh, the chains are my mom and my dad and their expectations that they have on me, that, it's so clear if we allow ourselves to really go there.
Yeah. Wow.
I had another client who was explaining her molestation that happened earlier in her life. And as she was talking, her feet cramped up. Like her toes started like curling up. And when we started exploring that, she's, I want to walk. I want to get up. I want to walk. So she started walking in my office, and she said, I wanted to get out of that room that day. I wanted to walk out, but for some reason my feet wouldn't take me out of the room. But today I get to walk. I get to leave the room. I get the choice to do what I want. So those are just a couple examples of how the body is just really, really talking to you. And it's like it wants to guide you through the healing. It does. And if you listen to it, it will.
Yeah. What do your former colleagues think of this aspect of what you're doing now? Because I imagine that a lot of them might actually secretly think it's pretty awesome.
The more progressive ones, polyvagal theory is, becoming more and more popular and well known, and like, duh, guys, come on.
Yeah.
So I think the more progressive ones are like, yes, Rachel, go do it. You're kind of doing what we all wish we could do. The old school ones probably looking at me like I'm maybe being a little careless,
Mm. Yeah.
boundaries, ethics, the laws, all that stuff. You're not supposed to self-disclose. You're not supposed to, don't touch your client, and you can't be friends with your clients, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that's ridiculous, I think.
Interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that it is brought to you by my friends at BIOptimizers. I am so pleased to partner with them again. I'm focusing on supplements, and I've been taking their magnesium a lot because, well, it helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. It doesn't help you go to bed on time. But if you can do that bit, it will help you stay asleep. At least it really does for me as well. It is the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually use and absorb. I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. And, if you're struggling to return to your health routine in 2024, I have a lesson to share, and that is focus on the big stuff. Prioritize healthy eating, exercise, stress reduction, and above all, really good quality sleep. And that involves taking a good supplement like Magnesium Breakthrough and then going to bed on time. I can't help you with the second bit, but I can help you with the Magnesium Breakthrough. If you're interested in taking that supplement that I have been talking about for a long time on this podcast, you can head over to BIOptimizers.com/Zestology. That is BIOptimizers.com/Zestology, and use the code Zestology10. So it's Zestology10 for 10% off. This podcast is also brought to you by my online program, the Healthy AF Method, the mindset method that transforms your health. And it's been brilliant. It's been so exciting doing this in 2024 because we've got an online community, and I speak to a lot of people individually as well because it's on WhatsApp, so people can just slide into my DMs if they've got a question. And it's just been so brilliant refocusing on all of this stuff at the start of 2024. It is the chance to heal, optimize, and transform your health with NLP and energy psychology. This is my proven signature health mindset program, and I would love you to come and join me and embark on a transformation in 2024. Head to TonyWrighton.com/healthy if you're interested in taking part. I'd absolutely love to welcome you. And again, if you use the code Zestology10, you can get 10% off just by being a listener to Zestology. Just to let you know what we work on in this transformative program, it is all about using NLP to transform your health and your life by embarking on a health transformation, helping your healing, and living the healthy AF lifestyle. And I think also I would say elevating our health IQ. It's really, really important that, sort of emotionally and mentally what's going on when you think about health affects so much what's going on physically. And if you can start to set and achieve health milestones by using this stuff, that is really satisfying. So it's TonyWrighton.com/healthy. Use the code Zestology10 for 10% off that, 10% off the Magnesium Breakthrough as well. That's it. Back to the show.
And in terms of it's really interesting thinking, sort of trying to listen to signals from the body, trying to interpret things, our own reactions, and what that means. Is there any way that people can do that without coming to see you in a session? Because I'd love to sort of think, well, what's going on? Like for right now, I've got a bit of a twinge in my neck, which seems to happen quite often. And I just put it down to the fact that I'm a bit wonky and I'm not very well aligned, and that might well be true, but it might be something else. So, I'm sort of fascinated to know, how do I interpret that?
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be able to without the help of a guide.
Mm.
So what I encourage people to do is at least get to know the sensations. Just start there. If you're not able to connect with a guide, that's okay. It's not like all is lost.
Mm.
The simple act of saying, "Oh my gosh, I have this like kind of a dull ache that's happening right here." Just being aware of it and letting it be there, that is so healing in and
Yeah.
of itself. N- Interpreting it would be the next stage, but if you don't have that, that's okay. The awareness and the allowing it to be there. Yeah. Start there.
So that goes back to the other thing that we were discussing in our email exchange before we started this interview, and that was non-judgment and the power of non-judgment. And that's something that's been hugely important to me, especially with my health, because I am someone who's very type A. I try and fix any problem. And so when I sort of got quite seriously ill a few years ago, with no particular cause or reason, just in bed for a few months, I just tried to Google for 14 hours today to sort of fix it. And one of the real formative things that helped me was speaking to an EFT practitioner who sort of encouraged me to sort of accept what was going on. And in fact, that was very much the sort of dialogue that I used in my life. I choose to flow from moment to moment and accept rather than sort of try and figure it out every time. So I love non-judgment. It doesn't come very natural to me, but I think that's why I need it more.
Yeah, it's very counterintuitive, right?
Mm.
Allowing all experiences, taking away the idea that this experience is bad, this one's good, this one's right, this one's wrong. All experiences just are. And when you allow them to happen, you get to grow from anything.
Mm.
Then everything begins to shape you. It's beautiful. I think kind of the opposite of this toxic positivity. So many people are like, I had anxiety today and I tried to breathe and I tried to do my everything, so I could calm down. And it's like, well, what if you just fucking let yourself be anxious?
Mm.
Guess
Yeah.
what? Your anxiety would probably just go away.
Mm.
Stop trying to feel good. Allow yourself to feel anxious and feel what that experience is. You might learn something. You might grow from that. But we're so busy trying to like push it down and make everything feel nice that we miss out on the opportunity for growth sometimes.
Yeah.
I love that word, the allowing, just the
Mm.
allowing of everything. Then there's no such thing as a bad day ever again.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but I'll have to give it some thought.
You might have uncomfortable days. You might have painful days. You might have sad days.
Right.
They're not bad.
Yeah. 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 I think I've talked about this on the podcast recently, but my son started school. He's 4 and he started school a few months ago, and he's really struggled to adapt. I mean, we are in Portugal and his teacher does not speak a word of English. So it's not been particularly easy for him. And he's doing well now. But one of the things that really helped is I trained in tapping a few years ago, the EFT, and we started tapping on our way to school every morning. And there is there's an allowance in that. You're sort of accepting what's going on because you're actually saying, well, I say, how do you feel? And he says, I'm feeling sad. And I'm like, all right, well, let's say that then. You start tapping all over the body. I'm feeling sad. I'm not feeling happy. I don't want to go to school. And just that is sort of the acknowledgement from daddy as well, rather than what my instinct is to say, don't worry, mate, it'll be fine.
Cheer up.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very subtle way to convey the message of you are exactly where you are, and that's okay. By not trying to cheer him up and by not talking him out of his sadness. That's subtle. That's beautiful. Yeah.
I probably do sometimes try to talk him out of his sadness, and that's a good reminder to not do so. But but it's just because it's sort of tried everything, and that was the one that seems to work. has the interesting side effect. Talk about the link between what's going on in the body and the mind. Has the interesting side effect of making him really need a poo, which to me is a great thing because something's letting go in the body. Shows it's working, doesn't it?
Something is working. Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, in terms of non-judgment, what is a strategy that we could use to introduce a bit of non-judgment or acceptance into our day-to-day lives?
Okay. My favorite tool for that was developed by Marsha Linehan, who's the creator of DBT. She says, and instead, when you catch yourself judging, first of all, don't judge yourself for judging. We all do it. We're all taught to judge, and it's very natural. So when you catch yourself, say, whoops, okay, I'm judging. So instead of judging this person or this situation or myself right now, I'm going to express in some ways, either written or spoken out loud, that would be best, the positive and negative consequences of what is going on right now. So for instance, that person was such a horrible person because she yelled at me in the grocery store. So I'm judging her, I'm judging the situation. And so now I'm like having a response to it, an emotional response. So I'm catching myself judging. I'm gonna put that aside and I'm gonna say, okay, what are the positive and negative consequences of her yelling at me in the grocery store? Positive consequences. I'm doing some introspection. I'm learning about myself. I am being forced to use my tools right now. Negative consequences. It got my heart rate up. That was an uncomfortable feeling for me. I didn't necessarily like that interaction. Positive consequences. It's giving me an opportunity to, practice cooling down. Negative consequences is I felt embarrassed because somebody heard her yell at me, whatever. So what we're doing now is we are looking at a situation almost as like we're collecting data about it, rather than having this emotional investment in the situation. Us to A, stay more regulated, and B, problem solve way better. So now, since I'm not emotionally heightened by it, and I have my list of pros and cons, I can step back and look and say, oh, is there anything I want to do about this? Is there anything I want to change in the future? Yeah, maybe. Or do I just want to forget about it, move on with my day?
That's excellent.
And I think the challenge is judging ourselves. I think people get pretty good at not judging other people in situations before they get good at not judging themselves. Oh, I yelled at my kid this morning. I'm going to judge myself about it all day long and feel really guilty and, all the things, shame ourselves about it. But if we can say, okay, what are the positive and negative consequences of what happened this morning? Okay, so what do I want to do with that? How do I want to get better? Do I want to just forget about it? What do I need to repair things with my kid? We get to problem solve with a clear mind then. I think that's a pretty effective tool to start with.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of minutes left. So I wanted to ask you, Rachel, what is one book that's had an influence on you or something that you would recommend to people, and one tip for living with more energy and vitality? So of any book that you like that's influenced, and actually sometimes it can be a fiction book or something that you read in the past. So it doesn't have to be sort of related to your field.
I mean, I have a stack of books this big that I love, but I am reading Our Polyvagal right now, by Stephen and Seth, or I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm obsessed with it.
What's it called again?
So
Our
good.
Polyvagal.
Our Polyvagal World.
Okay.
And it's written in such a smart way, really digestible. I think most people could read it, understand it, and get such a great sense of their bodies and its response to our our world and how, like, what to do with it. It's just, it's so well written. I absolutely love it. I recommend it to everybody. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm on the last chapter.
Brilliant.
And my tip,
Yeah.
you said I could cuss. So here I go.
Okay.
My tip is, remember that you are born unique, meaning different from all others. And your whole purpose on this earth is to show up as beautiful, unique you. How you think, how you feel, how you experience the world. The world needs your particular beautiful energy to show up as authentic and real and whole. Fuck everything else. That's my tip. Fuck everything else.
That's an excellent tip. That's a good one. We've had all sorts of things.
Thanks for letting me say that.
I'm on episode almost 500, I think, but we've never had that. So that's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Really nice to connect in person. Lovely to chat to you. And where can people find out everything that you're doing and more about you?
Yeah, so rachelsievers.com is my website. You can find my podcast there, but you can also find my podcast, The Answer to Everything, on all podcast platforms. You can also find me on social media. I do a lot of demonstration videos on mental health and communication and relationship issues. That's Rachel M. Sievers on Facebook. And then I believe Rachel Sievers on Instagram and TikTok. Rachel Sievers what? Oh, Rachel Sievers MS. Ellie just shouted to me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will. I don't think I'm following you there, so I'll do that. Thanks for coming on. Really great to chat.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
That's it. Thank you for listening. As always, going to save my voice today. So just remind you that my podcast partners are Mag Breakthrough. You can go to BIOptimizers.co.uk/Zestology and get 10% off. And in fact, this month, you can get around 30% off on that link. My voice is almost going to go. And you can get 2 free travel bottles of Magnesium Breakthrough. So well worth it. Enjoy. It's BIOptimizers.com/Zestology. Thank you for listening. I'll be more zesty next week, I think. See you then.